Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube, X, and Facebook page. My name is Ryan McGinley. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined, as always, by Tony, where it was Celtic 4, Partick Thistle 0, goals from Yang Hyun Jun, Liam Scales, Sebastian Tenetke, who got his first goal for the club, and a late goal from Luke McCowan ensured that Celtic made it through to the semi-finals, where they will face Rangers in a Glasgow derby at Hampden in order to get to the League Cup final, the Premier Sports Cup final. Tony, how are you doing? You all good?
Loved that. Really enjoyed that, Ryan. Bring on the Rangers. I wanted Rangers in the semi-final. I just think it's more palatable if the result doesn't go your way to losing a semi-final as opposed to a potential final. But I think Celtic are, the green shoots of recovery there today, Ryan. Sebastian Tenecti, you are greatly encouraged by what he's producing. Some decent football, linked up really well with Iheanacho for his goal. Nigrin a couple of assists, good for him as well, to get a wee bit of form back. Colby Donovan looking the part, lots of positives to talk about today and enthuse over, Ryan. I understand the calibre and level of the opposition, but that was the kind of game that we hoped we'd see. I said 3-0, you said 4-0, so you'd have been delighted to see Luke McCowan ram that one in with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, it could have and probably should have been more, but we'll get on to talking about individuals and what that result means as a whole once we talk about our sponsors. We've got to shout out our sponsors very early on in the video, and we thank them for sponsoring this video. It's Simply Furniture. They're located in Hillington, Glasgow. It's Simply Furniture is an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. With over a decade of experience in furniture retail, they meticulously source only the finest pieces, curated for quality, comfort and timeless design. From elegant sofas to statement dining sets, our hand-picked collections offer exceptional value without compromising on style. Their dedicated team ensures your furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. And if you want to see the beauty up close, then visit their stunning showroom and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount. And all of their links are in the description below this video on YouTube. Tony, 4 goals, 4 different goal scorers today for Celtic. Goals from all over the park. You think Yang on the wings, Scales a centre back, another winger scoring his first goal for the club, and Sebastian Tenetke and Luke McCowan from midfield. So the goals were spread out today. Where do you want to start? Where's a good place to start for you, Tony? Who immediately stands out from that performance today?
I think we've got to start with their new hero, the Super Swede. 2 performances in, Ryan. Everybody's enthusing about him. I asked Brendan Rodgers the question, in the traditional sense of Celtic wingers, he's following in a wonderful tradition. He's a throwback, Ryan. He wants to take his man on. If he loses the ball, he wants to take his man on again. Celtic traditionally have had wingers that excite fans, and Brendan Rodgers said that Tenecti's a player that excites him. I think he's exciting a lot of sports, and we're all delighted to see that he's hit the ground running, got his first goal. I say, can't underestimate Iheanacho, Kelechi Iheanacho's part in that goal either. Really pleased to see those 2 link up. And whilst Iheanacho didn't score, he was still involved and in the periphery of some good football, Ryan. So yeah, slight concern maybe that everything was coming down the left-hand side, but there was a reason for that. The boy was hungry for the ball. He kept being given the ball, and from very early on, you realised there was a lot of joy to be had down that side. So really enthusing about Tenecti's performance. That's 2 back-to-back performances that he strung together, and it augurs well for the future, Ryan.
It certainly does. I know you called him Super Swede. Celtic did get him from Sweden. That he's Tunisian.
Oh yeah, he's Tunisian. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Heritage as well. They did Super from Swede. I don't know if it'll have the same ring to it. I liked your Tunisian terrorises Thistle sort of alliteration.
Yes,
I loved
alliteration. Yes.
Yeah, and the instant analysis and player ratings are both available on the Celtic Way website if you want to have a wee look. We were both waxing lyrical about the same players. I did have a look at your instant analysis before we came on. Benjamin Nigrin, now, he's a player that, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think a lot of people have already made their minds up about this player without looking at the cold hard stats and the facts that go into games. Regardless if he's passing, if that cross went straight out or that corner went straight out for a goal kick, when you look at the stats at the end of the game, Benjamin Nigrin got 2 assists and he was involved in getting Celtic through to the semi-final. not everything is perfect in his game, but I did tweet it out at half time that he's involved. He's involved in things. I think he's his own worst enemy in terms of if he does something wrong, then it's obvious because he's there, he's trying to make things happen. Similarly to Rio Hatate, who I thought had a much better game today. But Benjamin Negrin, 2 assists, and he's involved in 2 really good crosses for both Yang and Scales' goals.
Ryan, you can put up with the odd distribution and passing going astray if you're going to put in 2 quality balls like that for guys to score. That's what he's there for, to do as well, to contribute and assist and goals. If he's not scoring, then contribute and assisting. And those were 2 brilliant crosses that Yang and Scales only had to put their head on. In fact, there was a moment in the stadium where everyone thought Yang had missed. He thought he'd put it into the side netting, and there was a lot of confusion there.
On the TV, on Premier Sports, I thought he'd missed the target.
It took a nick of, I think it was Patrick Redding, wasn't it, on its way in?
Kind of shouldered it.
And I think, I think BBC Scotland thought that it hit the post and gone past the post and gone wide, and then others thought he just crashed a header into the side netting. But no, it was. It took a split second for it to register with everybody, supporters included, and obviously the working journalists. But yeah, the quality's on the cross, Ryan. Just get your head on it and put it in. And Yang did what every good winger should do in those situations. Timed his run and planted it in the net. And then the corner, if you're putting a delivery like that into guys who've got a good leap and a good spring, Liam Scales being one of them, done it before. I've always said, Ryan, corners have to give your defenders or attackers a fighting chance to win that first header and get it on target. And if Negrin can do that consistently, then Celtic will score goals from those set pieces. For a long, long time, our set pieces like corners and free kicks were shocking. That's the quality that you need, Ryan, but he has to produce that on a more consistent basis. And also, for me, midfielders, passing's my big thing, Ryan. It's a huge thing for me, and his distribution it can be wayward, it can be erratic, likewise Hatate, but I don't want to dissuade them from trying passes. But for me, the execution has to be on point at times, or else you aren't contributing. But those 2 crosses today got the finishes that they deserved, and I'm delighted for Negrin because he might get his wee mojo back, because he'd kind of started really well and then faded. I think that's fair to say. Past few games, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a massive player for Celtic in Belgrade on Wednesday. Now, I've watched clips of him.
He has to be.
But every player has to be. It's going to be a massive game for Celtic in a pressure-filled environment in Belgrade. You know it's going to be a hostile atmosphere, but it's going to be one that Celtic are going to have to deal with on the night. Benjamin Negrin is a player that can get you goals and assists. I think that's why he's in the team. That's why he's in there ahead of Arne Engels, why he's in there ahead of Paulo Bernardo, Luke McCowan as well, despite coming on, and a good finish from him to make it 4-0. That's why Negrin's in the side, because you know that he can deliver assists and be on the end of crosses and score goals too. He did it for Nordjylland against the likes of Fenerbahce a couple of seasons ago. He can do it for Celtic away from home in the Champions League. I think he's a massive player for that occasion on Wednesday night in Belgrade. Great moment for him, great corner, great cross into the box, and Scales a really good header from the defender. Just want to touch on the defence very quickly, Tony. From where I was watching it on the TV, on the television, quite a few hairy moments both in the first and the second half. Now, I know that Celtic kept a clean sheet in the game, and I want to focus on the positives as much as possible, if I can speak. But both Cameron Carter-Vickers in the first half and Liam Scales in the second half, and maybe a couple of moments from Voyami Sinisalo. A little bit of shakiness in there in the back, particularly in the centre half areas, but thankfully it came to nothing. It ended up being nothing for Partick Thistle, and they got that clean sheet. But these are things that they need to iron out ahead of tougher tests ahead, don't they?
I'm glad they did it today, Ryan, because that'll be spoken about, that'll be highlighted when they're watching the rerun of the game. That cannot happen on Wednesday night against a team of Belgrade's calibre or any European calibre team. Those mistakes just will have to be eradicated, because if it's a concentration level and you lack concentration or you lose concentration for a split second, regardless if you're playing Champions League or Europa League, you will be punished, because these clubs have players that will take advantage of situations like that. Fine, you get away with it against Partick Thistle, you register the clean sheet as you've said, but tighten up, and that'll be the message from the manager and the defence coach like John Kennedy. tighten up. That it's, you have to, as much as there was some lovely football played today and scored some good goals, you have to accentuate those perceived negatives as well, because you will get undone by better teams. And what you have to learn from that is, okay, you cannot afford any lapses in concentration in any game, but especially when you take that step up to play teams of European class.
Yeah, I absolutely, completely agree with everything that you've said there. It was 2 goals in 2 minutes, because it was Yang that scored in the 26th minute, and then 2 minutes later it was Liam Scales. So it was a double hit. It was quickly Celtic then controlled the narrative of the game. They got that early-ish goal, 26 minutes of play. Then they built upon that, and they got their second just 2 minutes later. So they really did control the narrative from that point until the end of the game. It was 2-0 at half time. Celtic were in control. Only took them a minute to score their third goal of the game from Sebastian Tenekte, who seems as if after 2 appearances everybody is talking about at the moment, and for good reason, because he's had 2 player of the match performances for his new club. Totally a good fit already, perfectly acclimatised into what Celtic need and want him to be, which is a winger that takes on his man, and who, once he knows he's got the beating of his man, he will continue to go to that player to try and do it again and again and again. And he got his goal. But it was really good play from Kelechi Iheanacho, that 1-2 from Tenekte to Iheanacho to play it into the Tunisian winger, and a great finish.
Yeah, I mean, he looks every inch a Celtic winger, doesn't he, Ryan? Tenekte? He just excites. He gets you off your seat. You're rising in anticipation whenever he gets the ball, thinking, what's he going to do next? And even if it doesn't come to anything, he's still hungry, he's sharp, and just demands the ball, which I really like about him. And again, lovely finish for the goal, the 1-2, and then having the composure just to put it away in the bottom corner. And, that'll be good for Iheanacho as well. Those combinations up front, right? Great, starting to form partnerships and stuff like that. And it won't be long until Tenekte's returning the favour to Iheanacho and playing him in like that. I'm convinced of that. And yeah, I just think that's what puts a smile on your face, Ryan. These are the players that excite you. You love defenders to keep clean sheets, goalkeepers to keep clean sheets. But see your front men, wingers and attackers, you want them to score goals, to assist in goals. And you look for those combinations, those partnerships, connections, and that's what we saw a wee bit of today with Tenekte and Iheanacho, and that's what I was hoping for in this game in particular. Now, can that be a wee springboard and platform to launch themselves onto Wednesday night in Red Star Belgrade? Let's do that in the Europa League, Ryan, and really say, right, these guys are starting to develop an understanding. That's what I want to see, but it has to start somewhere, and I'm glad it started today. And I was delighted for Tenekte to get on the score sheet. I would have loved Iheanacho to score as well, but I'm just starting to see that kind of understanding, and starting to look for players, starting to look for those 1-2s in and around the box. That creativity, Ryan, that had been missing, glaringly missing from Celtic's play up until today. So that pleased me greatly.
Yeah, it pleased me greatly as well. Just as much to watch it on the TV as you were watching it in person at Firhill. Now, there was a whole raft of changes, just having a look at the sort of match report or the stats in the game. After 59 minutes, 60 minutes, Callum McGregor, Kelechi Iheanacho and Sebastian Tenekte all came off in place of Paulo Bernardo, Daisen Maeda and Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who all came onto the pitch. 10 minutes later, Arne Engels and Luke McCowan came on, and it was Luke McCowan that scored the 4th goal of the match. But I've got to give special, and I'm sure you will too, a special shout out to Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who got his first assist due to the work that he carried out in the lead up to that goal. He sensed that there was a ball to be won while Partick Thistle were in possession of the football, and he hassles his man so much that he's able to just prod the ball into Luke McCowan's path, and from there it's a great finish, a great touch and finish from Luke McCowan, who seemed to really enjoy that goal, and amongst the Partick Thistle support as well. But really good from a first goal contribution for Michel-Ange Balikwisha and another goal contribution for Luke McCowan off the bench.
yeah, brilliant for Luke McCowan. He just has a knack of doing that, coming off the bench and scoring goals, doesn't he? But yeah, you have to say well done to Michel-Ange Barlaquisha and get his confidence levels up, Ryan. You know, he's had an indifferent start, but there's an assist. Now, go and do it again. You know, if you get the nod to play on Wednesday night, you know, that's what you'd be looking for him to do. Assist or get on the score sheet. And so that wee cameo that he brought on to affect the game or do something that affects the scoreline or affects the outcome of the game, and he did. Took a lovely touch and played Luke McCowan in very well. McCowan's finished it with aplomb. Excellent. You know, that kind of, it puts a wee bit more gloss on the scoreline. But that's what playing for Celtic's all about for a winger, Ryan. They have to be involved in moments like that. They have to be assisting. They have to be contributing. Barlaquisha, the manager, said it was on him for his first 2 performances. That's fair enough. He's cut them some slack there, I think. And say to Barlaquisha, right, now's the time to kind of kickstart and get up and running. Here's an ideal match, a wee cameo performance, and you put in a nice pass for Luke McCowan to put the seal on the game. And then you just say to him, that's why we brought you here for. You know, that's what he's here to do, Ryan. And to do that on a repetitive basis, I think that's what the manager will be stressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been speaking about Tenetke as well, and the fact that he needs to up his numbers. He needs to be a volume winger. So it's good that both of those players that came in, you know, fairly late in the transfer window are already getting goal contributions, and they can be relied upon to do that hopefully on Wednesday night, regardless of who Brendan Rodgers picks for that left wing slot, although it looks pretty likely it's going to be Tenetke, given the fact that he has won 2 Player of the Match awards in 2 games. It's not the worst habits to be getting into for your new team, and he's certainly catching the eye. But it's good to see that Barlaquisha was also contributing for his side. Just in terms of the other subs that came on, Tony, what did you make of the likes of Paulo Bernardo, Daisen Maeda, Arne Engels, particularly Arne Engels, because there was a really bad challenge that he had to face, unfortunately, in the midfield. I don't know if you saw it from where you were sitting or you saw it clearly, but it was one of those ones where, had VAR maybe been involved, it could have been upgraded from a yellow to red. It catches him on the sort of ankle area. It was a really, really poor challenge, and it seemed to affect Arne Engels for the rest of the game, because I didn't think that he got too involved after that moment.
No, he didn't. I thought it was a poor challenge, Ryan, and it wouldn't have surprised me had it been overturned and a red card, and it did affect him. But what I also say as well, near the end, the one that he shot into the stands, see if he falls with the initial contact, he could have got a penalty. He was too honest for his own good, because the guy clattered him, you know, and gave him a right, you know, kind of boot. And I thought if he'd have fallen, not encouraging him to fall, but it looked to me it was clumsy in the extreme. And then he just turned, and out of frustration, I think he hit a wayward shot. But I think that was because the guy had clattered him and done him, and he felt it, you know, again. So I felt that could have been possibly looked at had he gone down. He didn't. As I say, he was honest, and he got on with it when he hit a wayward shot. But yeah, I don't know, I feel for Arne Engels at the minute, because you know there's a footballer in there, Ryan, but he's just been deprived of opportunities because the manager kept faith with the 3 midfielders from last week, which to everybody's surprise. And I think when he gets on the pitch, he's desperate to show what he can do. And sometimes that frustration, you know, manifests itself when you do something magnificent, or you don't, you try too hard to impress and it doesn't go your way again. But I think you're right. I think that instant where he was rattled by the Partick Thistle player certainly affected him. Paulo Bernardo, I like Paulo Bernardo as a footballer. I think like every Celtic supporter, they want to see more of him, don't they? And again, another one who's just sort of suffering at the hands of the manager in terms of the way he's picking his midfield trio. Because I genuinely thought that Engels and Bernardo would have started that game today. I was surprised when Nygren and Hatate took to the field, but he probably had Belgrade in mind, didn't he? And give them an hour.
he was also talking before the match about not having as much time, or not having as many games to rotate as much, and there was a lot of time in between games, so he didn't need to rotate as players were getting that 7-day rest. That's over now. Now Celtic are playing on Wednesday before playing on Saturday against Hibs at home. Just a quick reminder that Celtic, despite being in the Europa League, they're playing on Wednesday rather than Thursday for match day 1, and that means that they'll play on one of their last Saturday at 3 o'clock games for a good while, you would say. So it's nice to be able to say, it will be nice to say farewell to that sort of fixture before we see it going for the next sort of 2-3 months. But that's just the way that Europa League football goes, unfortunately. It's a massive game for Celtic on Wednesday against Belgrade. It's a real chance to start off well in the Europa League, but just as big as that upcoming semi-final in either the 1st or 2nd of November. Now, after the game, the draw was conducted, and it was Motherwell against St Mirren in the first semi-final, and in the second semi-final it was Celtic versus Rangers. So a massive Glasgow derby upcoming and at Hampden. For those that maybe missed the start of the podcast, it's Celtic v Rangers in the Glasgow derby in the semi-final of the League Cup. Massive game, Tony. Are you already looking forward to that?
That's the draw I wanted, Ryan. I always want Rangers as early as possible in every cup competition. Going to have to play them at some point and beat them. So this isn't any different. And, Brendan Rodgers' recent record against Rangers leaves a lot to be desired. The last season's League Cup final winning penalties apart. So Celtic have got a score to settle here in terms of their own performance against Rangers and showing that they can win on that stage. You're going to play a vastly different Rangers team as well further down the line. Celtic will be vastly different too, Ryan. I saw a wee bit today that thought, okay, something upon which to build. Scoring goals is always good for the confidence. But, I really do want to see Celtic really lay a marker on Rangers in this semi-final and just say, right, enough's enough. Here's how good we are. And it's all about what Celtic do for me, Ryan, in the lead up to this semi-final and in this semi-final. We know how Rangers are going to play against us, are going to try that. I hate seeing these words like the high press and the low block and all that kind of stuff, Ryan, but that's the way they've played against Celtic and had success the past few times, or certainly not lost to us since the League Cup final. So I want that addressed. I want that balance redressed, Ryan, and I want Celtic to put on a show at Hampden in November. I'd be mightily disappointed if they don't. I know winning's paramount. I really want to win and win with aplomb and style, Ryan, and really lay a marker down and say, right, we've had a few games against you where we've not been at the races. I want Celtic to beat the races, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to know the answer to this question, Tony, but what is going on in the background at Firhill? Because there's so many people in the comments asking if there is a seesaw in the background, if somebody's on a seesaw at Firhill. There's a lot of background noise coming from where you're sitting. Can you answer the general public or the viewers as to what they're hearing?
They're hearing a person who is, I think it's in the far corner, there's a man doing something with some metal contraption. Looks like hose or something. Or I don't actually know. But yeah, that's the noise they're hearing. It's clearly squeaky and in need of oil, I believe. But yeah, I can understand where they're getting the seesaw reference from.
Yeah, well,
I think he's
let's
reeling in a huge
up rather than down when it comes to the seesaw.
I think he's reeling in a huge hose by the looks of it from my pure vantage point.
It's been going for a good 5-10 minutes, so it is a very, very long hose, that is for sure. The final sort of spot I want to talk about on today is the fullback area, because we did see something today that we haven't seen so far this season, and it was a really big moment, I think, in his return to Celtic, and that was Kieran Tierney completing the whole game, completing 90 minutes of football, and that was absolutely great to see. And then on the other side, you got Colby Donovan playing another 90 minutes of football, only his second start for the club, and he got 90 minutes of football, despite the fact that I think his boots were troubling him in the first half and he had to change boots after the first half, but it didn't seem to stop him and he had a really good performance, really steady performance for the duration of the game. But Kieran Tierney with 90 minutes, Colby Donovan with another 90 minutes, that's good to see.
Delighted to see Kieran Tierney come through 90 minutes, Ryan, unscathed as well. And Colby Donovan, I think John wrote a piece this morning, Colby Donovan had saying that he's allied himself and bonded with Kieran Tierney. There's your role model right there, Ryan. You know, a role model and your kind of idol and hero on the other side. Just study him and watch everything that he does. Train the way he does. You know, adapt all that air of professionalism the way Kieran Tierney did. And if Colby Donovan turns out to be anything like Kieran Tierney, Celtic will have won a watch. But he's clearly gaining all the right habits. And Ryan, I don't know about you, but I felt he doesn't look out of place in this Celtic team at this minute. And you know, last week he was getting a lot of plaudits. I felt again going back to that distribution. His distribution could have been better last week, but maybe that's just me being a hard audience and difficult to please. But today I thought he was on point. He was excellent. I really did. And again, I'm allowing for the standard of opposition, but this is a boy who's thought, I've got an opportunity here. I'm going to grasp it. I'm going to show you how good I am. And I thought he's a talent, Ryan. You can clearly see that. And if he listens to Kieran Tierney and just watches Kieran Tierney, then I tell you what, he'll be doing all right.
Yeah, they broke the ice very, very early on because I believe that he was number 63 before Kieran Tierney returned, and then he had to change to the number 51, which seems to be doing him quite good just now. So they automatically broke the ice, probably with a conversation with the two of them to say, here, can I get my number back, please? And since then, it seems as if they've hit it off. And from what Colby Donovan, you've got to take what Colby Donovan is saying at face value. They're really good friends, and elsewhere in his own position in the right back slot, Alistair Johnson has also been mentoring him. He's been helping him out with his game off the pitch and giving him tips, watching some clips together as well, I believe. So that's really good to see. And Tony Ralston's been helping with his individual development too. So you think of the amount of appearances that those three have had. Kieran Tierney on the left side, Alistair Johnson and Tony Ralston on the right side. I can't think of three better people that Colby Donovan can learn from, both as academy graduates for two of them and an international player. Well, the three of them are internationals, but the way that Johnson plays, especially for his international side, and the way that he features for Celtic, really good people to learn off of and get as much information as possible off of.
I'll ask you this question, Ryan. Would you have any qualms about playing Colby Donovan on Wednesday?
No, but because I think he will play on Wednesday regardless. I think just due to Ralston's had no game time, but I would expect Colby Donovan, and I've got no issues with playing him there at all. And that's just down to the confidence that I've got from him after watching him the past couple of games. I think he's still yet to be tested defensively, but I think we'll see that on Wednesday. I think Wednesday's a great acid test for that, to see how good his defensive skills are against a good side in Red Star Belgrade. But I think he's up to the challenge, and I don't see why you wouldn't put him in the team on Wednesday night. I think he's earned that opportunity and he's earned that slot on the right back position. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, without doubt, and I would say the thought of Colby Donovan playing at full-back doesn't strike you fear into you, does it? Because you think that's an accomplished young player who could rise to the challenge. And if by some possibility Ralston declares himself fit, I'd still play Colby Donovan, Ryan. If I want to see him at that level. And you only learn, I'm not saying I want him to see him make mistakes, but you only learn by playing against better calibre opposition. And I'd have no qualms about throwing a 19-year-old into a game of that magnitude and believing that he could come through a test like that with flying colours.
Yep, completely agree with you. Is there anything else that you want to touch upon, Tony, before we head off this evening? You're obviously at the game. I don't know if you want to maybe talk about the protests that happened before the game, but from where I could hear, or the sound that was coming through on the television as I was watching the game, it seemed like a pretty united fan base, both in the protest that they did before the game and for the team once the game kicked off.
Yeah, I don't know if they sang the song last week, Ryan, but it was remember the old Jan Vennegoor of Hillington tune, and the Celtic fans sang "All Celtic Fans Against the Board." That's the words they used to that tune. And I asked a couple of the boys, did they sing that last week? And they said no. And to a man, woman, and child, they were all singing it. So, Ryan, these protests aren't going away. The fans aren't going away. And I said in my instant analysis, it'll get ramped up a notch when the fixtures come back to Celtic Park on Saturday against Hibernian, and they will continue to do so until Celtic address the 7 questions or certain members which they want removed. It's a long, arduous journey for those kind of things to happen, Ryan. But I think the message was clear today. The fans are going to protest for as long as it takes to effect change. And as Brendan Rodgers said as well, and I always say, can't speak for Celtic supporters and I would never tell them what to do. They're perfectly within their rights to act whatever way they want, as long as that's the way it takes shape. It's organised and, and it's and people are united in that. Whatever way a Celtic fan wants to behave during this protest, that's up to them. Because as I say, I would never dream of telling them what to do, but they ain't going anywhere, Ryan. These protests are going to come thick and fast, and it's up to the hierarchy to break their vow of silence and meet them halfway, or continue to adopt the head in the sand approach and see no ships.
Yeah, I had the benefit of watching the game through the television, as I've said before, and the camera was panning to especially Chris Mackay, and he looked quite displeased with the way that the protests were going, but they're not going to go anywhere. Now the Celtic support have been mobilised via the Celtic Fans Collective. Now that is in place, it's set in place. There will be further documentation and further messaging as to what's happening next, both in the short, medium and long term. They seem to be mobilised now, and there's a unity amongst the supporters. There's different sections of the Celtic support, and I think it's important to underline that not every Celtic supporter is the same. Yes, people go on and talk about the Celtic family, but every person in that family is different, and they've got different views. But I think with the collective, it's important that there's as much representation as possible. And that seems to be the case. That seems to be what's occurring with that steering group that's been formed. It was formed on, I believe, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it was announced on Friday night, Saturday morning. So it's been it's an interesting time. But at the moment, Celtic are doing all that they can do on the park. And since those protests started, Celtic have scored 6 goals and only conceded 1, so they're not doing too bad, but tougher tests await in Belgrade against Red Star. Anything else you want to touch upon, Tony, before we head off?
No, I think we've covered most bases there. I think it's myself and Josh on tomorrow, so we'll go all over it again and get Josh's take as well. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed today. It was a fairly comfortable last 8 tie on what could have been a tricky occasion for Celtic, but they made light work of it by playing some nice football, scoring some good goals. Just delighted for Tunick to get off the mark, and can't wait for Wednesday night. Roll on Wednesday night. Might get an away win, Ryan, that elusive away win.
Hopefully that is the day, Tony. Partick Thistle 0, Celtic 4. Celtic have set up a Glasgow derby semi-final between themselves and Rangers at Hampden on either November the 1st or November the 2nd. Full dates to be confirmed on that one. Tony, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your stellar work at Firhill, as always. Wherever you go, it's always stellar work, and we really do appreciate it. A big thanks to It's Simply Furniture for sponsoring this video and all of our videos at the moment. Please check out the links in the description on our YouTube channel. Until tomorrow morning, when Tony will be speaking with Josh, have a very good rest of your weekend, and Celtic are into the semi-finals of the League Cup, so enjoy, guys. Cheers.